welcome this late edition of Rosen Sports Sunday. It was a wonderful afternoon, as you probably saw in our newscast on campus, as the U of M women's hockey team achieved perfection with their championship win over Boston U. Not so much for the Gopher men's basketball team tonight. They were solid 8-point underdogs against Florida. They were really fortunate to ever get that close in the second half. Minnesota made it look so easy disposing of UCLA on Friday night, but Florida is altogether much different animals we saw this afternoon. After trailing by 22 points in the first half, the Gophers came out with a lot more fire here in the second. Here was their one moment when you thought, just maybe, Austin Hollins cutting the lead to 7 at 53-46. Hollins with Andre Hollins with 25 points. But there was a key basket. It was from the corner here. Scotty Wilbekin took his only three-point shot of the night, and it was good. The lead was back up to 10, and Florida casually pulled away to win by 14. After answering a number of questions, Tubby Smith was obviously not in the mood to discuss his future job status after Amelia Reyno of the Star Tribune asked the question.
Coach, do you have any indication that your job is in trouble at all?
No.
That would be no. Henry Lake from KFAN Radio, our basketball insider during March Madness. We joined us in the studio. Although you're leaving us, you're going to Kansas City. That's the word on the street, right? Taking a job down there?
That is true. I'm going to be working for 610 Sports Radio there. So.
Well, congratulations to you.
I appreciate that.
What the heck am I going to do without you around?
I'll be back and forth.
Listen, okay, so we'll talk about Tubby's situation here in a minute, but for the record, the team the Gophers beat on Friday night, UCLA head coach Ben Howland, was fired. I guess it was not a big surprise, but he went to like 3 Final Fours. It shows you how fickle it is in the coaching ranks.
Yeah, I think that when you look at UCLA, though, their expectations for their program way too high. I mean, they look at their program as though it should be the John Wooden years with Bill Walton and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and those guys. It's not the same way nowadays.
Even though recruiting class was so good. Again, we'll get back to Tubby in a second. The Gophers actually shot the ball better tonight the first couple of minutes than they did early on against UCLA, but they just could not stop Florida's three-point barrage. As advertised, you knew Florida was that good at the three.
Yeah, I mean, they could not stop Rosario when he was knocking down those threes in the first half. He was getting some wide-open looks. And I thought defensively, and Tubby talked about it at halftime, the fact that they were not able to lock down and play good defensively in the first half, that was frustrating to watch.
They knew what to expect, but I think anyone who watches this team, this Gopher team, will go down as one of the most bipolar teams I could ever remember. And we saw it all in the first half tonight in their game. Austin Hollins came out and hit a couple of three-pointers, made it 10-10. This was the last time the game was tied, but they didn't get anything in the first half, Henry, out of Rodney Williams and Trevor Mbakwe.
Yeah, those guys were sleepwalking, and I was tweeting about it, and I was frustrated like all the fans were that those guys as seniors weren't showing leadership. They didn't do it until the second half.
Yeah, you know, here's the Gophers doing this thing. And again, Hollins doing his job early on here.
Yeah, the Hollins guys, they were playing well. Austin and Dre, they basically carried this team in the first half, but that clearly was not enough.
Here, Mike Rosario, just a tremendous spot-up shooter. 8 of 12, 6 of 9 three-pointers.
Oh, I mean, knocking down 6 threes. As much as we looked at Dre Hollins and saw the 6 threes that he was able to knock down and play well in the second half, Rosario was that good in the first half.
Yeah, they shot 65% in the first half. Rosario kept doing his thing, and you get, you know, Eliason had tweaked an ankle. I think you couldn't catch up with him.
Yeah, no, they could not find the shooters in the first half, but you know, second half, I like the way the Gophers came out and fought.
Eric Murphy scored all 15 of his points in the first half before he got into foul trouble.
Yeah, he got into foul trouble in the second half, and the Gophers were able to use that advantage to get back in the game. But when you're down by 21 points at halftime, it does not help your cause.
And the Gophers, again, this has been an issue all season long, turning the ball over, and this killed them here. 39-25, and you can see this thing getting out of reach here.
Yeah, and every possession becomes so vital when you're down by so many points. And when they were able to get it down to 7, you thought that maybe they had a chance, but if you knock down a couple or give up a couple of three-point shots, then you're out of it again.
But you're down, and here's the thing, you're nothing out of their bench. I mean, Julian Welch, Maverick Anamisi, Elliot Eliason, Otto Oshenix. Is this the biggest issue that Tubby Smith thought he would have this year and just never really materialized?
I don't think that Tubby thought that he was going to have the lack of depth that he ended up with. Guys does not show up, you know, in terms of offensively being able to provide some spark off the bench. He had to rely on the starting 5, and today was not good enough.
So you're down 48-27 at the half. You're thinking, is this team going to put up 100 against them tonight? Similar deficit at Indiana. They nearly came back in that one, but this is the NCAA basketball tournament. So how do you look at it, you know, 3-minute increments just to sort of say, just try to get back in the ball game? Florida probably relaxed a little bit too.
Yeah, Florida probably relaxed a little bit. I thought the defensive intensity from the Gophers stepped way up in the second half. Rodney Williams showed up with an effort in the second half that I thought he should have provided and brought at the start of the game. Andre Hollins got into foul trouble, and that did not help their cause.
As we look forward to this team, look forward to the future of this team, and really maybe to a great extent and begins and ends the conversation about Andre Hollins. If nothing else, he proved he is more than ready for the bright lights of this tournament, someone you can rely on in the future for the Minnesota Gophers, and he looks like he's the real deal.
The one thing that you have to look at is know that the Hollins guys are back next year, Andre and Austin, and the fact that Joe Coleman needs to develop at a high rate next year so he can provide some leadership, and you're going to have Elliott coming back as well.
Rodney Williams showed some fire early on. Andre Hollins was their go-to guy. He did pick up his fourth foul. He had to sit on the bench for a while.
Yeah, and I thought that one of the issues was Trevor Mbakwe. You know, the type of effort that you're going to need in the NCAA tournament is the type of effort that we saw against the Indiana Hoosiers at Williams Arena, and he didn't bring that today.
Well, he brought it a little bit in the second half here. He played hard in the second half, finished with 11 points, but you always expected more from Trevor all year, and just it was never quite there.
Yeah, he was very much inconsistent like the rest of the Gopher team this year. The one guy that I think, for the most part, or the two guys that pretty much brought it night in and night out was the Hollins duo.
Andre hitting that three-pointer. The Gophers kept chipping away. Florida got in foul trouble. You thought maybe for a moment there. To mention Austin Hollins too. You know, these two guys are going to have to do it for him all season long next year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they develop from this year into next year. But having those guys back, you know that you at least have a backcourt. You don't know about the front court, but you know about the backcourt.
Well, this is the three-pointer that killed them here. Wide open look, and this is what Florida does so well, and probably will enable them to meet their cross-state rival next week. Every team everyone in the country will be rooting for. Wilbeck had knocked down the three. The lead was back up to 10. You could feel the Gophers lose all their energy. 78-64 was the final score. The two starting seniors of the Gophers, Rodney Williams and Trevor Mbakwe, joined Tubby Smith on the podium for the last time, Henry, wearing a Minnesota uniform, and talked about tonight's final loss.
You know, we've been through a whole lot, ups and downs, and, you know, our team has stayed together. Everybody stayed with it, and everybody, you know, every time we got down, we never gave up. We always fought. So, you know, even though it didn't end the way we want to, I'm still a little happy and proud to be a part of this.
We coughed up some games that we felt we should have won, but we couldn't really look back. We just wanted to finish the season off strong, and we lost a tough one in the Big Ten tournament at Illinois and lost on the game winner, and then we bounced back and had a good one. But I think, you know, this team always kept fighting. We never really let up. Unfortunately, we didn't finish as strong as we wanted to, but I'm proud of the way the guys responded, especially during the tough stretch and when people got down on us.
You think Trevor can play at the next level in the NBA?
Yeah, I think there's a spot for him. I mean, you know, when you look at the league, they have a lot of undersized guys that are strong at, you know, showing great athleticism. So I think there's a spot for him.
They've always been talking about Rodney being a great athlete, but not a great basketball player.
Yeah, he's. I think that someone will give him a shot, though, in terms of maybe picking him up in the second round or giving him a trial because he is so athletic.
All right, let's get back to Tubby Smith. We heard Tubby's one-word answer, no, in reference to the question about if he felt his job was in jeopardy. He later added there could be some assistant positions opening for varying reasons. Do you believe his job is in jeopardy? Because I do. I think, again, the sources that I have and you have as well said that if he didn't get to the Sweet 16, it's a good chance he's not going to be back. I
think the number one thing is going to be what is the assistant situation. If one of his assistants or maybe a couple of his assistants leave, then I think he's going to be back. Do you want to go ahead and do the buyout thing with Tubby Smith? I mean, he's not worried about it because he's going to get money coming his way. But I think the number one thing for the Gopher in the Gopher Nation and the fact of the University of Minnesota is, who do you want to replace Tubby Smith? If you don't have a viable, very good candidate, then you need to go ahead and stay the course.
Well, I have to believe if those discussions have to be had already. Norwood Teague, there's agents, as Tubby had an agent before he came to Minnesota. They talk to these agents all the time before they get serious about making a move. And I have to believe that those coaches out there, they've already had those discussions. You don't wait for the end of this time and go, maybe we had to make a move here.
You would hope so, because the last time the university was in a situation like this where a lot of fans wanted to coach out, it was Glenn Mason, and how did that work out for us?
Yeah, well, here's the deal. What's the criteria that you should be judging their decision on when it comes to Tubby Smith? What's the biggest reason the fans are dissatisfied? Results? Is that it? Or is it because some of the players who have left here have performed better when they were here at the University of Minnesota, or other reasons?
You know, when it comes to results, they've been to the tournament, 3 of his 6 seasons. They finally got a win in the NCAA tournament against UCLA. So I think that a lot of us have kind of looked at Tubby Smith and we've had that attraction to him because of the Kentucky National Championship, and we felt like, you know, we want to get back to that situation.
But public perception is always important. He doesn't pass that right now. He does not pass it in the least. And how important is that? Is Norwood T going to look at that, knowing the fan base is not happy with Tubby Smith right now?
You can't base it on that. I mean, you know that Tubby is not going to be one of those Tom Izzo type of coaches that's going to, you know, fire up the fan base. That's going to go out there and fire up the guys that way. He's a very mild-mannered, low-key guy.
Well, let's get into it this way. The importance of moving forward is for this Gopher program is obvious. The number of nationally ranked high school players is unprecedented in my memory. Look, we've had the likes of Kevin McHale and Randy Brewer, Sam Jacobson to Khalid El-Ami, but we haven't had the sheer number of outstanding juniors, in particular led by Tyus Jones, Reed Travis, and Rashad Vaughn. None have committed to a college. All are being highly sought. Does it come down to landing one of these guys? If you start talking about programs and moving forward, especially when they're in your own state,
that would help. That would.
I mean, really.
If you're able to get a Tyus Jones or somebody like that, or you know, Rashad Vaughn, I think that he will probably not only stay for the next year or two, but he probably get an extension.
Well, that's a decision you have to make sooner than later right now. Tyus Jones gave the Pack Target Center crowd lots of reasons to see why Tom Izzo and practically every other big-name college coach is after this kid. He led Apple Valley to a surprisingly easy 74-57 win over Park Center last night. I know you've watched this kid play. I watched that game last night. He plays so under control. Never any extra movements on the court. He just sees everything so well and does things with patience.
You know, up until Tyus, Khalid El-Ami was the best point guard that I'd ever seen in the state of Minnesota. But Tyus, he just controls the game so much. You know, the ebb and flow of everything. Defensively, very good. Offensively, able to find his teammates. When you look at who he's playing with, he's not playing with the greatest bunch of guys, but he's able to get it done.
I'll tell you, as we watch this kid play, he's got a ninth grader, though, the center, who's going to be a great player for the next couple of years. This is a great program. And you see, Tyus is coming back next year. He's got one more year at Apple Valley as well.
And he's a kid that, you know, the bigger the stage, the more he's able to step up and raise his game.
Well, Reed Travis of De La Salle, much different type of player, very powerful, smooth overall game, a lot to like. Again, one of these guys that every college coach is after, and the Gophers have been all in on him.
You know, he's one of those kids, look at him, he's got a man's body. You know, it kind of reminds you of Royce White in terms of how big he is. He's able to, you know, put the ball on the floor, as you see there. He's a phenomenal player.
Again, Rashad Vaughn of Cooper's the other one. He did not make the tournament. You can't afford to have all three not stay here. Do you have an opinion about which one they have the best shot at getting if you were to?
I think it's Vaughn. I really do. You know, I think they've got a good connection with the people over there at Robinson Cooper. I don't know for a fact that he's going to, you know, commit to the University of Minnesota or anything like that, but I think that is the guy that they're probably targeting the most.
Well, when you think about getting back to Tyus Jones, I don't think really anyone here, even though Tyus gets kind of defensive about it, and rightfully so, look at Minnesota's still on my list.
Yeah,
his parents say, I mean, I've heard people tell me that the folks would like to have him to stay here.
He's a very humble kid, and he's very respectful of the fan base, very respectful of the U of M. So I think he just wants to keep all his options open. Yeah,
it's going to be real interesting.
Absolutely.
Who's going to win the championship when they cut down the nets?
I still got my Final Four teams left. If you're going to ask me about my heart, I want to root.
I just want an answer.
I want to root for Kansas. I think right now the team that's playing the best, Rosie, is Ohio State.
They might be. I'm going to go with Indiana. Henry, all right. We wish you the best. I'm not going to be strangers. I know that. Good luck to you down in Kansas City, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Henry Lake. Coming up next, a great weekend of hockey from the Gopher women, the Gopher men, and of course, the first place Minnesota Wild, former Gopher and NHLer Tom Chorsky of FSN North joined us to recap it all. That's coming up next. Yes, it was quite the scene at sold-out Ritter Arena, celebrating the perfect season, culminated by the Gophers' 6-3 win over Boston U this afternoon. Their second straight NCAA championship, a 41-0 record, extending their amazing winning streak to 49 straight and creating quite a new fan base in the process. We want to welcome you back to Sports Sunday, along with FSN hockey analyst Tom Chorsky, who was named Mr. Hockey as the state's top player back in Minneapolis Southwest in 1985. For the record here, I just want to make sure everyone knows I did re-invite the players from the women's hockey team back as they were here a week ago, but they had, as you might imagine, a team celebration tonight, so good luck to them. What a great night for them. And they didn't have girls hockey when you played at Southwest or the U of M. I know you have a 10-year-old daughter, so you had to really take a lot of pride in watching what happened over there today as well, Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. The ladies hockey has been great, a lot of fun to watch, and Minnesota obviously back-to-back champions here, so we've been able to enjoy that. But at the Olympics and everything, you know, the ladies hockey has really come a long way, and they're flying.
Well, I'm sure, as you know, with the daughter, that if you talk about the game game really progressing. The skill set is really amazing, and you watch that, and you imagine the role models these Gopher women have become to, like your daughter right now.
Oh, right, yeah. They can look right across the way and watch them play and see some highlights of them here today. Their power play was so strong, and there you see a pass from Rachel Ramsey, and it's a one-timer. Get things started for them today, and they were rolling. You know, they had offense from players like Amanda Kessel, who had 2 goals and 2 assists today. She was Patty Kazmaier, which is the equivalent of the Hobie Baker. 101 points this year for her. It's just an amazing season for her, and that's so great. And a local player like Hannah Brandt, a youngster that has had such a great year. And then one of their leaders is Megan Bozek, and I think she had a 20-goal season from the blue line. So just a great season all around. And the fact that they accomplished that undefeated season and to win it all back-to-back, it's quite chilling, actually, to see that happening. Well,
let's hear from him, too, because 6-3 was the final. The celebration was on. 41-0, the final record.
It feels way better being a natty champ than the MVP. Like, I don't get who get the individual awards. I feel like every single one on this team just plays for this thing in front of our jerseys, and no one cares what's reading on our back.
Your personal records don't really matter when you win a national championship. You don't know how good it feels until you've been there, and then you really don't know how good it feels until you do it back-to-back.
Got those titles mixed up, but they won the game. As far as the Gopher men's hockey team is concerned, the pairings were set, Tom, for next week's NCAA tournament. Minnesota heading to Grand Rapids. Let's look at the pairings right now. Get your initial thoughts on the matchup. On paper, it looks like a good one. Minnesota versus Yale. This is a good matchup for Minnesota.
Yeah, it should be a good matchup for them. You know, they're limping in a little bit into this, but so is Yale. Yale's been shut out their last 2 games in the playoffs, and so Yale's got some work to do. But on paper, Minnesota certainly looks a lot stronger. Yale was a number 11 ranked team when things finally came out. I think everyone would anticipate maybe Minnesota playing North Dakota to get to the Frozen Four. That's the matchup I think all hockey fans would like to see. Yeah, and probably the NC2A too. The league I'm sure they would. But you know, there's 6 WCHA teams in the finals, so, and 2 in each out of 3 of the regions. So you could see some WCHA matchups. Well, you mentioned they've stumbled a little bit. They didn't play their best, let's face it, in the WCHA Final 5. But where's this team at? What's necessary to win a championship on this club as you look at them right now? Well, I think they certainly have the goaltending in Adam Wilcox, and there you see some great moves by the rangy youngster Bukestad. He's got to step up and make big plays like that. But a guy like Hall has been so good. He's been a leader. There you see Zach Budish, the captain. He's been very strong too. And you got a guy like Kyle Rao who can make a big play at any time from near the net and in the blue paint. So these guys, you know, and Nate Schmidt is another guy who's a highly touted free agent coming out of college by this year. So these guys, the chemistry is close to being there. I think they seem to be a team that really needs to have their backs against the wall and be put into that corner to come up with their biggest games, and they should be able to do that. You've also spent a lot of time covering the Minnesota Wild. They're playing with such confidence right now. The 5-game winning streak. What has impressed you most about this streak? Not just in terms of winning games in a row, but the improved play overall of this hockey team right now. Yeah, well, I think one of them is the play of Ryan Suter. He's really emerged, and he's starting to be one of the top scorers both on the team and in the league as a defenseman. And you know, in the beginning, his points weren't there, and it looked like he wasn't contributing the way you would think with his high signing contract. But he's really performed well, and now he's sort of seeing the team being rewarded. But it took a little while for this team to get going and kind of gel and stew a little bit, and now they've seemed to have found the magic. And Zach Parisi and Koivu seem to have some good chemistry there, and that was a goal that Parisi scored just as a penalty expired the other day. And here's another power play goal. So the power play is another thing that's clicking for the Wild, and they go on the road this week for 3 games on the road. Then they come back and play Saturday in St. Paul. Well, you show how difficult it is. They won 5 in a row. Vancouver's won 2 in a row, and Vancouver's back in first place. It's such a narrow margin between first and 8th place still, and every game seems like it's going to be a big one. And they are. You know, this 5-game winning streak has been, I think, really important for the team. They go on the road. They've got Dallas, which is a team they haven't beat since '03 down there anyway. Right. So that's going to be a challenge. They play them twice on the road. Come back here and play LA on Saturday. A lot of fun, though. Should you know, those games are games they can win and should win, but if they come back 500 off the road, they still should be in good shape. Tom, thanks for coming in late tonight. Appreciate your time and your insight as always with the Minnesota hockey scene. Thanks, Rosie. My pleasure. We'll be right back. Stay with us with a golf tip. You don't want to miss that. Okay, it's time for a weekly golf tip from Cheryl Mays from Crystal Lake Golf Course in Lakeville. She's been down in Florida and offers up that tip when your golf ball is wedged against a tree.
So I've hit my shot. I'm walking up. I can't find it. It's behind a tree. So my options are I can take a penalty, or actually I really can't swing this way. So my option is either to take an unplayable lie, which is a stroke penalty, or I can do one of my favorite shots, the backward shot. What I do for that, I have to see where my target is. And when I set up, and I'm using my pitching wedge. You need a club that has a little bit of loft. So something between an 8-iron and a sand wedge is great. I've chosen my pitching wedge. I'm going to take it, aim it towards my target, put my hand down. I'm going to line the golf ball up with my shoelaces. From here, I'm just going to swing my arm in a nice straight line going back and forth right from my shoulder. Okay, here I go. Set up. Take a deep breath. Awesome. I'm away from the tree and no penalty. So next time you get stuck behind a tree and you don't think there's any options, don't forget about the backward shot. Remember, pick a club that has the loft of somewhere between an 8-iron and a sand wedge. Play the ball even with the shoelaces on your shoes, and then don't get wristy, but just let your arm swing from your shoulder, and you'll have a lot of fun and great success with the backward shot.
I'm working on it right now. Another tip from Cheryl next week. We'll be right back. Shoelaces? Is that what she said? Yes, next Sunday night we will be previewing the Twins season opener a week from tomorrow at home against the Detroit Tigers with Lavelle E. Neal. I want to thank you for staying up late and watching Rosen Sports Sunday. Good night, everyone.